Hello and welcome to another Driven Catalyst live stream. The word another is carrying a heavier meaning today because I just completed about 20 minutes of a live stream and then did have to delete the whole thing because I hovered over an add tab button while sharing my screen and doxed myself. Woo! 3 cheers for doxing yourself on live stream. Probably not a big deal. But just in case that it is, I did need to delete the live stream and we are going to go again, but you are getting me back better than ever and refined. Basically, today we're going to talk about Adobe Express, which is Canva's older, more refined sibling. Not exactly. I feel like which came first, the chicken or the egg? Canva came first. And circa holiday season 2024, I came on live stream and was all for Adobe Express and then came back and disparaged it because I'd worked on really cool Driven Catalyst themed holiday wrapping paper, and then all of my assets started getting swapped out randomly, and so I logged on and was like trying to see my snowman themed wrapping paper, and like the hats were all different and the scarves were all different, and it just was weird. So that like really sullied my trust in Adobe Express. But I have been doing a lot of creative work for fun outside of work. And I've been playing iPad Baby, I call it, where I've been sitting on my couch and listening to audiobooks and working on fun little design projects just for me. And, which by the way is the creative equivalent of logging on and telling you that I've decided I am obsessed with quinoa, and I've been waking up before work every day to go to the gym, and I take long walks and taking sea moss supplements. I don't know. I feel like it's like, feels so good and healthy for me to be doing creative work outside of work for fun. It's so fun to do it at work, but having the desire and instinct to do creative projects at home feels great. Especially like listening to audiobooks. Like, I don't know, like if this wasn't my New Year's resolution already, it would have been. I feel pretty proud that I've gotten the hang of this and have been enjoying it so much. But it's been really good for my work life too, because I am learning a lot of new skills that I'm able to bring to work, and I feel like everything has gotten way more efficient. And I feel like working on it at home, I'm spotting blind spots creatively that I haven't run into yet, but that will definitely come in handy. For example, I learned this week on Illustrator how to use, I've always known clipping masks, but I've been using opacity masks. Context being, I was working on like a fake merch design, and I was working with a distressed font, and I wanted the vector graphics that I drew for the rest of the design to be distressed like the font. My initial instinct for how to approach that prior to knowing how to use an opacity mask would have been either to change softwares and go to Photoshop and approach it that way and use a distressed layer, I guess. But the issue with that is that then the negative space distressing isn't it's not transparent. It still would have like opaque negative space. It would be either black or white negative space. So that wouldn't work because I'm wanting to get like a iron-on transfer. So then it's just going to iron-on transfer whatever color is the background color instead of whatever the shirt color would be, right? So even if I'm ironing it on to a white shirt and I set all my negative space to be white, it's still going to be ironing on white graphic instead of whatever the white fibers look like. Does that make sense? So I would have done it that way, which is kind of annoying because then it's like you're taking your vector graphics off platform to Photoshop, and anytime you have to change hands with softwares like that, it works. Adobe sets everything up so that's not painful for you, but it's kind of irritating. Or it slows you down still, and it's the cross-platform, at least for me, as by no means still not an advanced user. It's kind of irritating. The next way I would do it would have been to pull in whatever texture, image trace it to vectorize the texture, and then Pathfinder tool the texture over whatever graphic, and then go in and hand delete out the distressed look. Like, kind of both not ideal ways to do that. So I locked in and I watched a great YouTube video. I wish I had it so I could hype up the girly that taught me how to do it, but it was very quick, very easy. And basically I was able to figure out how to use the opacity masks, and then I was able to find a Reddit feed too, because then I got stuck editing an opacity mask and I was having to restart the app every time I wanted to leave it, because the verbiage that they use in Adobe to leave the opacity mask is something like expand or close. It's not intuitive language, so I was worried I was going to wreck the whole project basically to leave isolation mode, when really it was just taking me out of the like opacity mask specific isolation mode. I feel like I'm speaking a little bit in nonsense language. So let's pull it all the way back. For those who don't know what masking is at all in the creative design world, I am going to give you the crash course that I once gave to my dad while I was at a Tex-Mex restaurant using a tortilla and a cup. I don't have a tortilla and a cup, which is pretty devastating for me because a tortilla sounds really good right now. But I have a Chipotle napkin and a stress ball. And basically, when we're talking about masking, it's basically the fancy word for cropping. The difference between masking and cropping as it applies to Illustrator, though, is, for example, if I was going to mask this napkin with this stress ball, meaning I wanted to have this napkin, but I wanted it to be cropped, or masked is the language we're going to use. Masked the shape of the gumdrop stress ball. To crop it would just be to cookie cutter it out, right? And so now we just have a Chipotle napkin that is perfectly cut out to the shape of the gumdrop. Masking means that basically you take, and it varies between applications. I can't ever remember which is which, but sometimes you select whatever you want the shape to be. Either you put the shape that you want on the bottom or the top. With Illustrator, I'm pretty sure it's top. And basically what that means is it's going to just hide all of the peripheral stuff. And you can go and double click the layer and move it around. So if you masked it here and then you went back and decided, oh, you wanted the Chipotle logo there, you can double click and move it so that then you have the gumdrop. It's purely this texture, and you can move it around to have whichever part of the image you want. In Photoshop, I think it's the other way around, where you do the clipping mask and you have to have whatever you want to keep on top, and it basically goes, and then you have it like that. And you can also, I think, move around the layer. But I think a huge part of why it's different is because sometimes you are using clipping masks for image filtering, like visco filters, for those who that feels like a more accessible description. If you're changing the saturation or whatever, but you only want to do it on this one part of the image, then you do the clipping mask and you mask it down. Okay, so that is your crash course in masking. Next time I'll bring tortillas. And let's actually put our hands on the software now. Let me show you the software that I've been talking about. This is Adobe Express. Everyone cross your fingers that I don't dox myself. And I already have a shape set up and like a texture that we're gonna try and mask it to. Let me get my preview screen. There we go. Cool. So I haven't done too much digging. I have a shape up, or I have a window up on my other monitor that talks me through the ways that I can use Adobe Express to create a mask, but let me show you what I can do. Basically, if I wanted just to mask it into a square or a rectangle, I could do that. And I'm calling it masking instead of cropping because I can change back. I don't lose that stuff. I'm not cutting it off. Think of things that are cropped as you're actually cutting the image and you're throwing away the scraps. This, I still have access to the whole image. Let me pull up. So this is something I ran into in some of my own creative projects. I'll use there's these awesome dried flowers that Adobe Express has. And what rocks about Adobe Express is, look, I have this so easy. I could come over to opacity and multiply if I had a light background. That could be my approach. Or, this is my favorite, my preferred way of doing something like this, is you just remove the background. And it does it for you, which is pretty crazy that it will just do it for you. The reason I'm bringing this up in regards to masking is this is something that's so nice about Adobe Express. I can do this and have this flower here, and I can copy and paste it, and I know what flower I just used. I can pull it down like that. Well, then this is the next obstacle. If I had a shape mask in Adobe Illustrator, I would just pin tool around this, a border real quick, and do that. If I was doing it in Photoshop, I would lasso tool around it and just cut so that this would go away. But with Adobe Express, we're gonna click erase, come down there. Ooh, okay, we have quick selection eraser on. So let's go ahead and let's undo. We'll come back to erase. I don't want quick selection on, I want circle brush. That basically just means the eraser works the way you would expect eraser to. And there we go. We're not going to be working with dried flowers. It's not very driven catalyst coded, but that is like a good example of what is so awesome about this tool. I really have come around to loving and trusting Adobe Express. Why I'm worried that it's not going to be what I need it to be in regards to masking an image is, do you see I have this shape? This is an element that I've pulled in, which gave me hope that it would have more capability than just pulling in an image using like a media fragment, because it's just kind of naturally way more vector looking. So I thought maybe it would behave more like a vector, but I don't think that's the case, because when I select it, it selects the perimeter instead of the border. So it's not recognizing this as a star necessarily in regards to its outline. It's recognizing it as a square, its perimeter. That being said, though, it does recognize the border because I can add a border. So the way that I would hope or expect to be able to do this in Adobe Express is that I would have these, so I can double select. I would expect to be able to click this little ellipses and have a masking option, or group and then select the group and have something up here, but that's not the case. I don't have that. So I've got the Safari tab open that I'm curious if I drag it over, does it affect what y'all see at all? No. Okay. So this is telling me to start with layers. Ensure your project has at least 2 layers, the layer you want to mask and the shape element you want to use as the mask. Select the layer you want to mask in the layers panel. Click the add layer mask button in the layers panel. Does this know I'm asking about Adobe Express? This is the AI overview. So let's go ahead and just click through to, here we go, Adobe Education Exchange. This site comes in handy for me quite a bit. You can hack Adobe Express to put pictures inside of shapes. This is like Photoshop masking. This hack is really powerful and useful. It supports you to put any photo, texture, or drawing inside a shape or an icon. Okay.
Here's a quick trick for on my drawing board. This time I'm going to pick media and upload from my beautiful knit texture for the entire sweater shape. Blend and screen, and look at that. I just
Whoa, okay.
put that texture right in there for the entire sweater shape. And
okay, I think this is a kind of a hacky hack, the way they're showing it. So this only would work with a black background, I think, and I need my texture layer on top and my shape layer has to be black. And then I would set, so that did work. You set whatever texture layer to screen. But then the second I do something like this, now all of a sudden it is not so perfect. Or with a black background. Same principle would then in theory work with a black background and a white shape. Oh my gosh. Where are my layers? Okay, there we go. We set it to multiply, and we set the shape to white or cream or whatever, and then that works. So that is sort of a life hack for masking, but it still leaves a lot to be desired, because how often are we using black or white plain backgrounds? Especially not when we've got so many different templates with a million different options. But to the credit of Carolyn Brown, who is the person who posted this hack, thank you, Carolyn. This is a great, great hack. It is advertised as a hack for masking. I would say that is the best option that I have seen so far in my digging. Create a clipping mask in Adobe Express. Let's see.
Oh, another morning to savour the crunchy nooks and cranny splendour of a Thomas's English muffin.
Tom, which is a nook and which is a cranny?
Okay,
That's a nook, cranny, 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 nook, cranny. I mean, they should be teaching you this in school.
which is news to me because I don't use Canva enough. But
Huzzah! A toast to breakfast!
all the
and grab the image and bring it into the shape. It's a little bit different in Adobe Express. In Adobe Express, you click on your shape, make sure it's selected, and then go to crop. And then crop will give you all of the different shapes that you may want, or you can just do it freeform. But for this...
Okay, let's try that out. So let's come back here. We're gonna make the background orange. Let me make my layers behave normal. So we have normal and normal. Okay, so this says, it's saying I can come here, crop it, say freeform. Ugh. Not just option. That's not giving me the crop options that I was hoping for. Let me come back to this video though and see. Is that the only? Yeah. That is pretty much the only solution that is being presented. I guess here's what I would expect, actually. I would expect to be able to do, I'll DIY a hack for y'all. I would expect to be able, oh my gosh, why are my layers? Okay, I'd expect to be able to group these and then select the group and use the super duper remove background tool. But since I can't, here's what I would suggest. You just use the masking tool, or use the hack that was named Carolyn Brown from Adobe gave. Hold on, I have to make my star black. Where'd it go? Let's just select a neutral. There we go. Or an in-between color. I need these ungrouped expeditiously. Ungroup, there we go. Okay. Let's make this star black. And we're gonna put the code over it using the light and blend. And then, so if you really were desperate and were, I don't know, using Adobe Express but didn't have Adobe Photoshop, which I don't think that's how it works. I think the license comes with all of it on your Creative Cloud. You could just screenshot and then let me pull that in. It of course is adding a step, but then you pull in the screenshot and look, now I'll set my background to be whatever I want it to be. So it's purple or periwinkle. And then watch, remove background. So now, excuse me, I don't know why my voice is so croaky today. But now I have the star shaped, like numbers, code look that I was hoping. So that is, I guess, what I learned about the capabilities of Adobe Express. I'm still a huge proponent. It still has made my life a lot easier and really kept the ball rolling in terms of doing fun creative projects outside of work. So for that, I am very, very grateful. I'm going to continue working with it. Hopefully updates and stuff will make masking possible at the level that I want it to be possible with Adobe Express. I'm gonna like keep digging for other solutions, but in the meantime, I hope the life hacks, the little hacks that I presented, help you out. Because you know what, like sometimes even better than having to pull up Photoshop and doing it in Photoshop and then export that PNG and then pull in that, because that would be the alternative. Like sometimes it is just nicer to do a screenshot. Like you're still kind of leaving the platform to screenshot it and pull it in, but it works, I would say, pretty similarly. Or it's easier. Same effect, similar effect, but it's, I think, easier to do a screenshot and pull the screenshot in than to go off platform, work in Photoshop, and then export, and then pull in the exported image. Does that make sense? Anywho, okay, we are talking the Conan Gray album on Friday. That's going to be the next live stream. We'll talk to y'all Friday, and I've been so excited for Wishbone from Conan Gray, so that's for sure what I'm going to talk about. Don't know how in depth it'll be yet. Probably we will do a little bit of talking about the new Taylor Swift album that was announced. I can't believe, wow, we haven't live streamed since that happened. I like the idea. it would have been what we should have done today. Was I was going to play around with like, oh, what's the album art gonna look like? I would love to do a project like that at some point. I think that would be so fun on live stream. I should have done it today because they're announcing. I think we're gonna actually get to see the album art tonight. So we will do Swiftie discussions on Friday. I will have a good list of what other artists' albums are coming out, like indie artists, that I'm excited for, and then we will actually talk about Wishbone from Conan Gray. So that's gonna be a fun live stream. Be sure to tune in. I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday, great rest of your week, until we meet again on Friday. Goodbye. And 3 cheers for me not doxing myself this live stream. Woo!